Hi there, and welcome to today's episode of the DisruptED interviews. Today we are joined by the fabulous Rachel Skelton, who has recently stepped up into the principal role at Rolleston. How are you going there, Rachel?
Claire, and hi from the beautiful Te Waipounamu. Nice day out there at the moment, so that's awesome. But
how's it been going? How long have you been in the leadership role there? I know you're always part of the leadership team. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey at Rolleston and Rolleston's journey so far?
Absolutely. So I guess sort of peeling right back just to give it a wee bit of context. So there wasn't a high school in Rolleston, and there hadn't been a new high school built in the South Island for 50 years before we opened. So really, really exciting opportunity. So we opened staggered, sort of a year level at a time, and we're up to year 12 now. So we've had 9, 10, 11, 12. And we started at one of our local primary schools, and we worked out of there for a year, and in the final terms of hired the staff and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's been a real journey and a building kind of journey. So we started, our role was 220 when we opened, and now we're up at about 950. So yeah, we've grown rapidly with the community. And in terms of me, so my principal's journey is an interesting one at this time.
Nothing like a trial by fire.
Absolutely. Come at me. No, it's been, an interesting time to take over the reins. So I've been in the position, I guess, I was in the acting position and then probably permanent principal for about 7 weeks. So, yeah.
But that's okay, because you can roll with anything, Rachel.
I hope so. Yeah.
So what's been happening down at Rolleston? What was your journey like into lockdown, and what did that first period look like for you guys?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I suppose, we had a fairly good idea that things were coming. So in that sense, I guess we were able to be reasonably responsive and planned. And I think the fact that we'd kind of shared with our community early, even sort of pre-lockdown, we think that this is potentially going to happen, but don't worry, these are the things that we already have. And I guess keeping the languaging around that reasonably simple so that the parents could go, oh yeah, of course, I know about that Google Classroom. I know about those things already. I know that my child already knows how to operate in that sort of setting. So I guess from that point of view, we were reasonably well prepared, but nothing quite prepares you. And there's always sort of curveballs coming each day. I guess we sort of looked at, and by no means is the way that we do online learning or distance learning or whatever at the moment perfect, but we sort of thought we're not going to change a lot of fundamentals around our structure now. Like, that's the wrong time to do that sort of stuff. So we've kept to things like Classroom and Meet and things that the kids were already quite familiar with. Which I guess, just adds a wee bit of safety there. But I mean, I'll touch wood here. I guess an unexpected positive consequence maybe has been that within our teaching and learning, we've been able to really look at, it's not that we've had to sort of build something, but it's looking at how can we make that better, and have we kind of got into habits that are easy to get into in a physical space. Is our online learning as interesting as it was right back when we started and wanted everything to be cool and fresh? So it's allowed a lot of reflection on that, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's trying to find that balance, between keeping it really simple, but also not just making it dull and repetitive, and finding a bit of a sweet spot in the middle. And I had a really neat conversation with Chrissy Butler yesterday about universal design for learning and making sure that we're maintaining those principles when we're designing our learning online as well. Do you want to tell people a little bit about what the curriculum looks like at Rolleston? Because I know you've got a slightly different approach than maybe some of our high schools do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we sort of operate with 3 different learning vehicles, Core, Connected and Selected. And that runs all the way up to year 12 and will run to year 13 when we have it. But looks slightly different as the kids progress through, I guess, sort of based on their learning and haora needs and that kind of thing. So Core, I guess for a teacher in like if I think about the context that I was in before I came to Rolleston, you'd probably talk about form time on steroids, but it's a teaching area of our school rather than a just a pastoral, no, I shouldn't say just a pastoral, but rather than a pastoral and a communications kind of area. So within that area of our school, we have a lot of different strands. So we look at building literacy and numeracy skills. We look at hauora. We do our big projects in there. So our quest projects, navigation. So where am I going in this journey that is education, and we have a sort of a whānau context there, so you're in smaller ako groups within a whānau. So that's one of our vehicles or one of our learning areas. And then we have connected, where we connect different sort of, it's usually, and this is probably more about the staffing model than anything else, it's usually those kind of core areas. And I guess you could say connected is probably in some ways the more prescribed. So we look at maths, English, science and social science, and then look at what are the natural connections in learning to create themes or topics across the junior school. And then at year 11, we sort of, rather than trying to blend all four, we usually blend two at year 11 and into year 12. And again, it's about where are those natural connections that are going to make sense, rather than, right, let's get 4 people in 4 subjects and make it work kind of thing.
So did that part of your curriculum get co-taught, or are there overarching themes that connect the separately taught classes?
No, definitely co-taught. Yeah.
And that's replicated online? So you've got shared Google Classrooms, Yeah,
it is. And so that's been quite neat, I suppose, as well, that staff have already been in a, in your normal everyday, not in this new normal, but they're already in the habit of doing that collaborative planning on a Google Doc, having those discussions. I guess they're throwing in a meet or two. And then going into the students' Google Classroom. And we've got a staff Google Classroom too, just because we thought, again, if we're sort of modelling that kind of stuff and using just the same things, again, for staff, it looks more normal. Yeah. And then, our final curriculum block is selected, which I guess people could sort of say looks the most like a traditional option, but then the offers within that might not be, it wouldn't necessarily just be food. It might be a food photography course, or it might be, so that's...
And are they taught by single teachers, or are they co-taught as well?
A bit of both. So it kind of depends. Like our art teacher, fabulous Rob, he's amazing. And so he is amazing with art, but also has a lot of outdoor ed experience and tickets and stuff there. So he does an adventure media course now.
Awesome.
He is teaching that at the moment, but last year he taught it on his own because he could bring both things to the party. So it just kind of depends. We do encourage teachers to go, okay, bring what you've got, what skills, strategies.
So if I can, just so I can get my head around this, so your juniors and those big sort of combined connected ones, they would have far fewer Google Classrooms that they'd go into, because they'd have their big one which connected all their core subjects. They might have 1 or 2 of the other select ones, and then their ARCO group, which is sort of like their homeroom to connect them. And then as you go up into the senior years, would they have maybe a couple of more different, just like 2 teachers teaching together in connected modules? Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's year 12 and 13, and this is something new that we've done this year, because we sort of figure with our ARCO, if we've got things right, the kids have got a really solid basis to work from with their sort of core skills and their understanding of their own well-being and that kind of thing. So at year 12, we have advisory, and so the emphasis, rather than building up literacy and numeracy skills, the emphasis is more on independent studies and pathways and navigating their way out of school, but also has a I guess still a bigger emphasis on well-being and checking in and that kind of thing. So
and do they do the project-based learning at all levels?
Yes.
In the ARCO time? So that's something that carries on through their ARCO group. Yeah. And do some students carry on projects over time?
Yeah, they do. Like we had in the Gazette recently, actually, it was one of our big success stories, but we had lovely Levante, who spent 2 years creating this amazing mechanical arm. And like, I guess that was sort of like, wow, that's quest in action. This kid was just consumed by it.
Yeah, and went deep.
and just created this amazing, and I guess with kids like that, you just think, wow, what next? And what opportunities. He's only in year 10 this year, so going into the senior school, wow, what's he going to do next? And
yeah, exactly. Can we sort out the vaccine? Maybe you could get him onto the vaccine sorted. So what's this all going to look like for you in the coming weeks? Because obviously we know we've got this weird week and a half of definite remote teaching and learning ahead of us.
Yeah.
If we look at modelling, we get the sense that we might be in and out of remote spaces depending on what happens and when the vaccine or whatever solutions are found. What does it look like for Rolleston over the coming weeks?
I think it really looks like building on what we've got now and refining so that when we go back into the physical building, there's no reason why a lot of the stuff that we're doing now doesn't continue. So we're not necessarily seeing this as a lockdown kind of approach, more just a kind of, okay, let's reflect on our pedagogy and let's look at, and we've been really lucky, like we've got some wonderful parents like Darren Sudlow from NetNZ. Hi, Darren. So we got in contact the other day. We were just having a chat on Google Meet, and but he put through some good provocative statements around even looking.
So he'd keep you on your toes.
Oh yeah, but even sort of looking across and going, okay, are we getting good variety across? So is a kid sitting in selected going to see a similar approach to connected and a similar approach to ACO and then go, oh, all this week looks a bit samey, so how do we provide variety across and think about what things look like for learners?
And I think as well, the thing that we've been talking about is, how much learning we're actually designing for. Like, I think it's really unrealistic to think that we're designing for all the hours of the day that we would have in a normal face-to-face environment. So we do need to design, pointedly design a whole lot less. But after talking to Chrissy yesterday, I keep coming back and going, how are we designing for stretch? Like, I like the idea of stretch rather than extension, because extension always has that sort of gifted notion, and it's not necessarily about that. It's just about those kids that need to have the stretch and have the space to explore around things as well. And I guess you're seeing the wins from having a strong online infrastructure in the first place. As you said, it's stuff that you were doing anyway, but obviously you're relying on it to deliver the learning in a different way when you're in the remote space. But as you say, if you get that right, when you come in and out, it's just a bonus when you get some face-to-face time as well.
Absolutely. And I think it's it's hard to predict what's going to happen, but I guess I just know as well, even when we're able to re-enter the buildings, there'll be some immunocompromised staff and learners who might have a longer journey, and so it's making sure that we're really mindful of that as well, and looking at different ways of connection. And
I don't know about you, but I'm sort of really hoping we might get some quite courageous messaging from the ministry around NCEA and slowing that journey down, because I know they would argue that it's already an option to say not focus on level 1, but I actually think across the board, wouldn't it be good to be given that confidence for us all to slow our journey down a bit around that? Because you've got to think about what's really important at this given time. And as you mentioned earlier, well-being is really important, and looking after our learners and not scrabbling to feel like we've got to reach, a end point that we might do in traditional circumstances. Because I don't think even if we do go back in a week and a half, we're not going back to normal, are we?
No, exactly. And I think, that kind of consistent messaging, for schools from a higher power is sometimes, is really good, because it takes a little bit of a pressure off and allows schools not to feel that they're competing with one another. Like we really down here with our kind of the principals network, and people are very supportive. And I wasn't here during the earthquakes, but I wonder whether it comes from, that time where people
they've had to collaborate to get along in the past, eh?
Yeah.
And one thing I'm really interested in, I can't remember who I was having the conversation with, but they were talking about the fact that they thought a lot of the learnings that they got from that time of crisis in Christchurch would stick when they went back into schools, and they were surprised that it didn't. In a way, you know how there was really creative stuff that went on with sharing of campuses and, you know, breaking down the timetables and people piggybacking on top of one another. I mean, what's your sense about the biggest learning that you've got so far, and what would you like us to hang on to in terms of a learning when we move forward?
Yeah, I guess the biggest learning that I've got so far is to put the emphasis back on the learning,
Yeah.
you know, and that what we're really encouraging our kids to do at the moment is the learning that you're doing, you know, document it, take more videos, upload it, and take that idea of it being for a particular assessment out of your mind. We can that, and we can fix that, and we can look at the things that you've done, but just keep learning it. If you're uploading it to your e-portfolio or taking photos of stuff that you've done on paper, then you've got it forever, and we can move that down the track. So I guess that's been the biggest learning so far, and also that whole connecting and belonging kind of thing. Like I admit I was a wee bit grumpy when I understood the reason for moving the holidays forward, but my biggest worry was for our kids to lose that connection.
I think I was the same as you. I had a little brain fart online where I was going, this is not good. This is not good. I want to keep up connection. And in hindsight, I've actually recognised it's not bad that everyone's had a chance to exhale. But I'm totally with you on that, because there was that sense of we want to keep a bit of momentum, we want to keep connection, we want to keep those relationships going. And it's going to be really interesting next week to see, come Wednesday, the rate of re-engagement from our learners. You know, I have our fingers crossed that we'll get them back in, but I wonder if there won't be a bit of people have sat back and it might take some time to get people back in on board.
Absolutely, and just making sure that re-engage. But it's really interesting. Like the kids have still been reaching out a lot over the
holidays. They're still trying to reaching out, connecting. I know our head students are meeting up. I know teachers, some of our teachers are still regularly meeting up with their tutorial students, which is the equivalent of your ARCO students. So that's awesome to hear. Cool. Well, I'm mindful of time, and I'm mindful of the fact that I'm desperately trying to keep these as succinct with mixed levels of success. So before we finish up, Rachel, are there any final words or anything else that you've been thinking about, or things that you've seen that you think that you'd like to share, or anything at this point in time?
I guess the thing for me, and I guess it comes back to that idea of connection, is that making sure, and that we've been tried really hard to make sure that all of the things that we do around check and connect, well-being, that sort of thing, can just as easily live in an online. It's just about finding the best ways to be able to do that, and so people still feel that they belong. And I guess for us, it's really started with the staff too, and making sure that those connections are strong, and that we know what this time looks like for each of our staff. And I was really pleased. One of our young teachers organised last week, and I was so pleased because it didn't come from a leadership team focus, but last week she organised, they normally have like a curry Friday, she did curry Thursday. People made all their own curries and ate it together, and
that's awesome.
Friday. And I just it's lovely,
And the social connections online have been hugely important, haven't they, in terms of the people having the Zoom drinks, and we've had like a combination of we have more of a social Facebook page for our staff, but that combined with a Google Meet drinks meetup and stuff has been really, really important for those. So I guess it's that message around relationships and connections first, learning second, and worry about the assessment and stuff later on.
Exactly.
In a sense,
the whole idea of opportunity, like what is the opportunity now to go, like we're going to have a staff meeting sort of partway through next week, and the aim is going to be, so the people that have found, and it's not about the tools, but the tools allow you to, I guess, do some cool stuff. So we're going to have like some sharing workshops and that kind of thing. Like, what are some cool things that you've discovered that you've implemented successfully that you want to share with other teachers in the
That's
school?
cool. That's a cool idea. How are you doing that? You're doing that through like a Google Meetup or something? Or
so we'll probably put out like a selection of options, and we're going to have one option that's like help. Like, what am I doing?
What day is it? That's one thing. We'll have to all know what day it is come next week. Man.
Yeah, exactly. So having some of the differentiation as well. But I just think people are doing such cool stuff. It'd be good to share it.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, I'm going to hit the end of record button soon. But to everyone that's watching, thank you for joining us. And thank you again to Rachel for joining us this morning. Make sure that if you haven't visited the DisruptED YouTube page, do so now. Make sure you subscribe, and then you can get your daily interviews delivered to your inbox. Thanks, Rachel.
Awesome. Thanks, Claire. See ya.